I didn't expect much when I agreed to crash at my best friend's place for the weekend. I was burned out. School had been a mess, work even worse, and I hadn't had a proper night's sleep in weeks. So when Liam invited me to spend a few days at his house while his parents were out of town, I jumped on it. Free food, a quiet bed, and a few chill days with my best friend sounded perfect. What I didn't plan for was his older brother, Cole. I'd only met Cole a few times before. He was tall, lean but built. The kind of guy who walks into a room and doesn't need to say anything to get noticed. He had this intense stare, dark eyes, and the kind of voice that made everything sound like a secret. He'd already graduated, worked some tech job, and mostly kept to himself. I never paid him much attention until that weekend. When I showed up at their place with my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, Cole was the one who answered the door. He was barefoot, wearing black sweats and a plain gray t-shirt that clung to his chest just enough to make me notice. "You're Chris, right?" he asked, voice low but not unfriendly. "Yeah," I nodded. "Liam home?" He stepped aside to let me in. "Went to grab snacks. Said you'd be early." I mumbled a thanks and walked in, trying to ignore how nervous I suddenly felt. Cole didn't say much, just went back to the couch, phone in one hand, bottle of beer in the other. I dropped my bag by the stairs and hovered awkwardly for a moment before sitting down across the room. The silence wasn't weird. If anything, it felt calm. We didn't talk, but I kept catching him looking at me like he was trying to figure something out. I told myself I was imagining it. When Liam got home an hour later, the house filled with noise again. He made jokes, threw chips at me, and dragged me into watching dumb YouTube videos with him. The three of us hung out for a bit, then Cole dipped upstairs with a casual night. By 2 a.m., Liam was snoring in his room, and I was still wide awake on the couch, tossing around. The guest room was small, and the bed creaked like hell every time I shifted. After a while, I gave up and crept back out into the hall. I noticed Cole's door was open. His bed was perfectly made, undisturbed. Liam had said Cole might be staying at a friend's place that night, so maybe he wasn't coming back. The bed looked so much more comfortable than mine. I told myself I'd get up if he came home. Just a few hours. Just to rest. I climbed in, trying not to overthink it, and pulled the blanket over me. The sheets smelled clean and warm, like fabric softener and something faintly woodsy. My body finally relaxed. Within minutes, I was out. And then I woke up. I didn't know what time it was. Late, dark, quiet, but I felt it before I saw anything. A shift in the bed, a warm weight behind me. Slow, steady breathing. Someone was there. Someone had gotten into bed with me. I stayed perfectly still, heart racing. The room was pitch black, but I didn't need to look to know who it was. It was Cole. I felt his body press lightly against my back, close, but not overwhelming. And then his arm slid across my waist. He didn't say anything. His hand just rested there, warm and light, like it belonged. I didn't move. I didn't want to move. And the scariest part, I didn't want him to stop. I lay there, completely still, heart pounding so hard I was sure he could feel it through my back. His arm across my waist wasn't heavy, just present. Warm, grounded, like he knew exactly where to place it to make me forget how to breathe. I tried to tell myself this wasn't real, that I was dreaming, that there was no way Cole, quiet, always distant, straight as hell Cole, had just slipped into bed next to me and wrapped himself around me like it was normal. But then he moved. Slow, careful, not enough to wake someone if I hadn't already been awake. His body shifted closer, his chest pressing lightly against my back, the heat of him seeping through the thin t-shirt I'd worn to bed. His hand on my waist tightened, just slightly, like he was adjusting, or settling in. My mind raced. Do I say something? Pretend to wake up? Or just wait? I was frozen, half in disbelief, half not wanting to ruin whatever was happening. Then I felt it, his breath, soft against the back of my neck. Close, too close for this to be an accident. "Are you awake?" he whispered, so quiet I almost missed it. I didn't answer right away. My mouth was dry. My throat didn't seem to work. Then I gave the faintest nod. He didn't pull away. His fingers slid up slightly, fingertips brushing the fabric of my shirt near my ribs, barely there, like he was waiting for me to stop him. But I didn't. I couldn't. I don't know how long we stayed like that. Minutes, maybe just seconds. The silence between us was thick, humming with something I couldn't name. "I couldn't sleep," he said finally, voice low and steady, like he'd already rehearsed it. "Didn't mean to freak you out." I swallowed hard. "You didn't," I managed to say, though my voice came out smaller than I wanted. His hand paused on my side. "You sure?" I nodded again, this time more certain. "Yeah." Another long pause. I could feel his breath slow against my neck. His fingers flexed, like he was working something out in his head. "This probably looks bad," he murmured, his voice tinged with something I couldn't place. Regret? Shame? I turned just enough to glance over my shoulder. In the faint glow from the hallway, I could see the outline of his face. He wasn't looking at me. His gaze was down, thoughtful, like he was trying to hold himself back from saying more. "You don't have to explain," I said softly. "I just didn't expect it." He let out a quiet breath that might have been a laugh. "Yeah, me neither." For a second, we just laid there, my back against his chest, his arm around me like it had always been there. Then he did something that completely unraveled me. He rested his forehead against the back of my neck. Not forceful, not weird, just soft, intimate, like he'd been wanting to do it for a long time. "I'm not trying to mess with you," he said quietly, his voice barely audible. Damn, I don't know what I'm doing right now." His honesty hit me harder than anything else. He didn't sound drunk. He didn't sound like he was playing a joke. He sounded confused, vulnerable, and that did something to me. "It's okay," I whispered. "You don't have to know." That's when his fingers moved again, lightly this time, tracing along my side, exploring the line of my ribs through the fabric of my shirt. Every nerve in my body lit up. "I've been thinking about this," he said. That stopped me cold. I turned fully this time, facing him, and now we were nose to nose, barely an inch between us. "You have?" I asked, my voice barely a breath. His eyes met mine. Finally. And for the first time, I saw it. The want. The same look I'd caught flashes of earlier in the day, but convinced myself I was imagining. "Yeah," he said. He didn't look away. And I didn't move. Not when he leaned in just slightly. Not when his hand slid up to my chest. Not even when his lips hovered right in front of mine. And in that moment, I forgot I was sleeping in someone else's bed. I forgot this was my best friend's brother. I forgot everything. Except that Cole was there. And he wasn't pulling away. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until his lips finally touched mine. It was slow, tentative, like he was testing something he'd never done before. His mouth was warm, soft, cautious, but the hesitation didn't last. After that first press, he leaned in again, this time with more certainty, his hand still resting on my chest like he was grounding himself. I kissed him back. I didn't think, didn't question, just gave in. Because whatever this was, whatever was happening between us in that quiet room while the rest of the house slept, it felt real. When he pulled back, our faces still close, he stayed there, breathing shallow against my skin. "Shit," he whispered. I blinked. "What?" His eyes searched mine, like he was waiting for me to tell him he hadn't just crossed some invisible line. "I didn't plan that," he said. "I swear I wasn't even supposed to come home tonight." "Then why did you?" I asked, still whispering. He didn't answer right away. His hand slid up, brushing the side of my neck, his thumb hovering near my jaw. His touch was light, unsure. "I don't know," he admitted. I was with some friends and I kept thinking about you, lying here, alone. His voice was so quiet, I almost didn't catch that last word. Alone. I felt something shift in my chest. Cole. I started, not sure where I was going with it. He shook his head. Don't say anything yet. Just let me stay, all right? I didn't hesitate. Yeah. Okay. We stayed like that, facing each other in the dark, his hand lightly against my neck, my fingers resting near his waist under the covers. Neither of us moved. Neither of us needed to. It was one of the strangest, most intimate moments I'd ever had, with someone who, up until this weekend, I thought barely noticed me. I've been trying to figure this out, he said finally, eyes flicking up to mine again. It's not like I've done this before. You mean with a guy? He nodded, then paused. I mean, yeah, kind of. I don't know, I've thought about it. A lot. But never like this. Never this close. He let that hang in the air between us. The honesty in his voice made my throat tight. Is it weird that I'm not freaking out? He asked after a while. I gave a half smile. Maybe, but I'm glad you're not. He looked relieved, almost like he'd been waiting for some kind of rejection. And I got it. Whatever this was for him, it wasn't casual. It wasn't a game. What about Liam? I asked, suddenly remembering where we were. He could wake up. He could walk in. Cole's jaw tightened just a bit, like he hadn't thought of that. I'll deal with it, he said, if it ever comes up. You sure? He nodded, firm this time. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen, if that's what you're asking. It wasn't, not exactly, but hearing him say it made something uncoil in me. I don't want it to be a one-time thing, I admitted. That was the first moment he smiled. It was small, barely there, but it was real. I don't either, he said. I shifted a little closer, resting my forehead against his. He let out a slow breath, and I felt it against my skin. We didn't kiss again that night. We didn't need to. Just laying there, tangled in the sheets, his arm around me, and my hand resting lightly on his side. It was enough. At some point, I fell asleep like that, safe, warm, and completely unsure what the hell I'd just gotten myself into. When I woke up the next morning, Cole was gone. The bed beside me was empty. Still warm, but empty. For a second, panic hit me. Had I imagined it? Dreamed it? Had the entire night been some insane fantasy born from exhaustion? But then I sat up and noticed the folded note on the pillow next to mine. Back soon. Don't freak out. Coffee's in the kitchen. See. That tiny line of text made my entire chest relax. I leaned back against the headboard, letting the events of the night replay in my head. I wasn't crazy. I didn't dream it. Cole had been here. He'd held me, kissed me, and he wasn't running away from it. I climbed out of bed, grabbed the note, and smiled down at it. And for the first time in a long time, I had no idea what was coming next. But I wanted to find out. The smell of coffee was what finally pulled me out of bed. I padded down the hallway, still in my t-shirt and boxers, trying to stay quiet in case Liam was up. But the house was dead silent, morning light spilling through the blinds, dust dancing in the air. The kitchen was empty, except for a steaming mug on the counter, and Cole leaning against the back door, phone in hand. He didn't see me at first. Or maybe he did and was pretending not to. You really did make coffee, I said, stepping in. He turned, barely surprised, and gave me this calm, unreadable look. Told you I would. He nodded toward the cup. That one's yours. I took a sip. It was strong, a little too strong, but I wasn't about to complain. We stood there for a beat, just staring at each other over the rim of our mugs. Sleep okay? He asked eventually. Better than I have in weeks, I said, and that made him smile. It was small, a flicker of something behind his eyes, but it was real. Genuine. I sat down at the counter. So, what now? Cole's smile faded a little. Not in a bad way. More like he was thinking hard. He set his mug down and came over, leaning against the other side of the counter so we were facing each other. I don't know, he said. I wasn't exactly expecting any of this to happen. No kidding. He ran a hand through his hair, looking down at the counter. I've been trying to wrap my head around it since I left your room this morning. I didn't want you to wake up and think I bailed. I didn't, I said quickly. I mean, I did at first. But the note helped. He let out a quiet laugh. Yeah, I figured you'd overthink it. I narrowed my eyes. Do I look like someone who overthinks things? He smirked. You look like someone who lays awake for an hour trying to decode every second of last night. Okay, fair. There was another silence. Not awkward, just full. I liked it, I said finally. He looked up at me, startled for a split second. Last night, I clarified, being close to you, all of it. He didn't say anything, just came around the counter and stood in front of me. Close enough that I could feel the heat from his chest again. I liked it too, he said quietly. Then he reached out and ran his thumb gently along the side of my jaw, just once, like he was still getting used to the idea that he could touch me like that. I haven't told anyone, he said, not even Liam. Not about liking guys, not even about being curious. You don't have to tell anyone, I said. He nodded slowly. Yeah, but I don't want to pretend this didn't happen. My heart thumped louder than it should have at that. He leaned in and kissed me again, soft, short, like he was reminding both of us that last night wasn't a fluke. Then he pulled back and whispered, Liam's probably gonna wake up soon. We both looked toward the hallway. Silence. Right, I muttered. We should probably not be doing this. He hesitated. Do you want to hang out later? Just us? I blinked. Like a date? His expression faltered, just for a second. I don't know. Maybe. Not like roses and candles or anything. Just time. Alone. To figure this out. I'd like that, I said. He relaxed a little. Cool. And then, of course, right on cue, Liam's door creaked open down the hall. Cole winked at me and picked up his coffee. Morning, Liam mumbled as he shuffled in, rubbing his eyes. I sipped mine and tried not to look suspicious. Cole didn't say anything, just handed Liam the rest of the pot, casually cool as ever. But as Liam turned his back, Cole glanced over at me one more time. Not a smirk, not a grin, just a look, like this was just the beginning. The rest of the morning passed in this strange blur, like everything around me was normal, but I wasn't. Liam was his usual chaotic self, pouring half a box of cereal into a mixing bowl and eating it like it was a reasonable choice. Cole played it cool, barely looking at me unless Liam left the room, and I sat there pretending not to replay every second of the night before in my head like a broken tape. At some point, Liam turned to us and said, Hey, I'm heading out for a bit. Gotta help Sarah with her car. Sarah? Cole raised an eyebrow. Liam shrugged. She's not my girlfriend. Just whatever, dude. Cole looked like he wanted to laugh but held it back. How long are you gonna be? Couple hours? Liam said, grabbing his keys and the last donut off the counter. Try not to burn the place down while I'm gone. Then he was out the door. I didn't even hear his car start. I was too busy realizing we were alone again. Cole waited a beat before walking over and sitting next to me at the dining table, just close enough that our knees brushed under the surface. He didn't speak right away. I didn't sleep great, he said finally. Kept thinking about this. He glanced at me, his face unreadable. Same, I said, though not in a bad way. He gave a dry laugh, then looked down at his hands. I keep thinking I'm gonna wake up and be like, what the hell did I do? But I'm not. That's good. He nodded, slowly. Yeah, it's good. There was a pause, and then I said, so, if this isn't a one-time thing, then what is it? I don't know, he said. I'm not ready to label it. But I don't want to ignore it either. His honesty hit hard. Again. It kept catching me off guard, how open he was being. He stood up and reached for his hoodie. Want to go for a drive? I blinked. Now? Yeah. There's this trailhead about 20 minutes out. Pretty chill. Figured we could talk. Sure, I said. Let me change. 20 minutes later, we were cruising down the highway in his black SUV. Windows cracked, music low. I was hyper aware of everything. How close he was in the driver's seat, the way his fingers tapped the steering wheel, the little side glances he kept giving me when he thought I wasn't looking. The trail he took us to wasn't anything intense, just a quiet path through some trees, barely anyone around. It was a little muddy from rain earlier in the week, but otherwise perfect. We walked side by side, not touching, not talking much at first. Then he said, "You know, I've always thought you were different." "Different how?" I asked. He shrugged. "Not in a bad way, just, I don't know, you're easy to be around. Quiet, but not boring. I used to think Liam was full of shit when he said you were his best friend, but now I get it." I laughed. "Gee, thanks." He stopped walking and looked at me. "I'm serious, I noticed. I just didn't let myself think about it too much." We stood there, trees all around us, the sound of birds in the distance. And then, with no warning, he leaned in and kissed me again. This time there was no hesitation, just quiet certainty. And when we pulled apart, he looked at me like he was finally starting to understand something. "I don't know what this is yet," he said, "but I know I want more of it." I nodded. "Me too." We didn't say anything else for a while, just kept walking, our hands brushing occasionally, our shoulders bumping. Something about the silence between us felt full instead of empty now. By the time we got back to the car, I realized I wasn't nervous anymore. I was just curious about where this was going, about what it would feel like to let it keep happening, about Cole. When we got back to the house, Liam was still gone, and something about that silence made everything feel easier, like we didn't have to pretend, like we could just exist without worrying who might walk in. Cole unlocked the door and tossed his keys into the dish on the counter. "You hungry?" "A little." He started pulling stuff out of the fridge without waiting for me to answer fully. Leftover pasta, a half-used bag of salad, something that might have been chicken. I watched him move around the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, jaw tense with focus. There was something weirdly intimate about it, like watching someone settle into domestic life, but just for the two of us. "Do you cook for all your guests?" I teased. He looked over his shoulder, amused. "You're the first one to call me out on it," I grinned. "So I'm special?" He shrugged, but I caught the twitch of a smile at the corner of his mouth. "Maybe." We ate at the dining table. Quiet at first, but it wasn't awkward. It was the kind of quiet that comes when two people are still figuring each other out. I wanted to ask him what this meant, what we were doing, but I didn't want to kill the mood. "Can I ask you something?" he said halfway through his plate. "Sure." "Have you ever done this before?" My fork froze. "You mean this? Like, been with a guy?" He nodded. I took a breath. "Not really. I've hooked up a few times, nothing serious." "What about you?" He looked down, poking at his pasta. "No, not once. I think I told myself I wasn't allowed to even think about it." I stayed quiet, letting him find his words. "But last night," he went on, "that felt more honest than anything I've done in a long time. I felt that. Not just in the moment, but deep in my chest." "I know what you mean," I said. "It didn't feel weird or wrong, just real." He looked up at me again, and for once, didn't look away when our eyes met. "I've been with girls," he said. "Long term, casual. But I always felt like I was trying to be the version of myself everyone expected. Last night felt like me. Maybe for the first time." I swallowed, heart pounding in a different way now. Not nervous, just struck by the honesty of it. "I don't want to rush anything," I said. "We can go slow, whatever you need." "I don't want to pretend," he said simply. "I'm not ready to make some big announcement or post about it or anything, but I want to be able to look at you like this, talk to you like this, without feeling like I'm sneaking around in my own house." "You're not," I said. "Not with me." He let out a breath, like he'd been holding it in all day. Thanks. Later, we moved to the couch, side by side, a movie playing on the screen that neither of us paid attention to. Our shoulders were touching. At some point, my hand drifted close to his. He didn't pull away. Then, slowly, he turned and leaned in again. The kiss this time was different. Deeper. Slower. Like we were both settling into something we weren't afraid of anymore. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "I like this," he whispered. "Me too." We didn't talk much after that. Just sat in the dim light of the living room, arms touching, his hand resting gently on my thigh, like it was the most natural thing in the world. The next few days passed in a blur. Nothing dramatic happened. No dramatic conversations, no big declarations, but everything felt different, better, more grounded. Cole and I fell into this quiet rhythm, navigating whatever this was with a kind of unspoken understanding. It wasn't like we were sneaking around, exactly. We just didn't push the boundaries around Liam. We weren't out, we weren't defined, but in the quiet moments, in the glances, in the way his hand brushed mine when Liam wasn't looking, we both knew something had shifted, and it wasn't going back. On the third night, after Liam had gone to bed and the house was quiet, I found myself standing in the kitchen getting water when Cole walked in, rubbing the back of his neck, his hair messy from sleep. "You good?" I asked. He nodded. "Just couldn't sleep." I handed him a glass. He took it, but didn't drink. Instead, he leaned against the counter, studying me like he was trying to memorize something. "You want to crash in my room again?" I asked, barely above a whisper. Cole didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I was hoping you'd say that." Back in his room, it was the same as before. Quiet, dim, just the two of us. But this time, there was no hesitation. He climbed into bed behind me, wrapping an arm around my waist like it was the most natural thing in the world. And I melted into him, no questions asked. "Is this weird?" he asked after a while, his voice soft against the back of my neck. "No," I said. "Not to me." He didn't respond, but I felt his lips press lightly against my shoulder. We stayed like that for a long time, his hand resting on my chest, my back pressed to his. Warm, steady, real. I don't know when we fell asleep, but I remember waking up in the middle of the night and finding him still there, still holding me. That was the night I knew. Whatever was happening between us, whatever this thing had started as, it wasn't just some impulsive moment. It wasn't just about curiosity or proximity. It was real. And maybe it was early, maybe it was messy, but I wanted to see where it could go. By the time the weekend ended, something unspoken had settled between us. It wasn't a label. It wasn't a secret either. Just a quiet, mutual understanding that things had changed, and neither of us wanted to go back. On Sunday night, Liam was packing up leftovers to take back to his dorm, oblivious as ever. Cole and I shared one last look across the kitchen. Nothing dramatic, just this soft, knowing glance that said, "We'll talk soon." And we did. The following week, texts turned into phone calls. Then a late night, "You up?" message became dinner. Then dinner became a walk around his block, his fingers brushing mine, not caring who saw. I was nervous, but Cole was steady, sure, not in a loud, showy way, but in the way he held his gaze, in the way he kept choosing to show up. "I don't know what to call this yet," he told me one night, his thumb circling the back of my hand as we sat in his car. "But I know it matters to me, and I know I feel more like myself when I'm with you than I do with anyone else." That stuck with me. We didn't have some big coming out story. Cole wasn't rushing to announce anything to Liam or his friends. But he wasn't hiding from it either. We took things slow. Simple coffee runs, quiet nights in, learning each other's habits. The way he liked to sleep with a hoodie on, even in summer. The way he always oversalted his fries. The way he said my name when he was tired, like it meant something heavier. And over time, it did. Eventually, Liam caught on. You'd have to be blind not to. He came home early from class one day and walked into the living room to find Cole sitting way too close to me on the couch, his hand on my knee like it had been there for years. He didn't freak out, just paused, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Wait, what?" Cole sat up straight. I braced for awkward. But all Liam said was, "Huh. Took you guys long enough." Cole laughed, actually laughed, and I think that was when I knew we were gonna be okay. We weren't perfect. We had our moments. Cole had his walls, and I had my doubts. But through all of it, he stayed. Every time he reached for me, every time he chose me, he stayed. And it wasn't some grand romance with fireworks and declarations in the rain. It was better. It was real. So yeah, my best friend's brother got into bed with me while I was sleeping. And yeah, that one night changed everything. But what happened after? That's what made it mean something.